Welcome to another chapter of our Marketplace Core Features for Seller Dashboards webinar. Today we'll be covering product management. Let's get to it.
Let's move on to the products, right? Because really the basic thing of the whole marketplace is we're selling products and services. So in the seller dashboard or outside the seller dashboard, whether it's the EDI or the API or whether it's an import, we need to be able to upload and control our products and our pricing, right? That's really at the heart of the core. You and I each want to sell our own products and services. We're both going to be sellers on this marketplace. How I may want to deal with or handle, or the data that I have, or the format that I have of my products may be very different from you. So the platform has to be able to handle everybody and their disparate and often, we call it dirty data, non-normalized and not perfectly formatted data, right? That's probably the biggest thing we see with every one of my clients. I've never seen a client come to us to build an e-com platform when their data is perfect. It just doesn't exist. So we deal with that day in and day out. So let's talk about, and we can go back to our platform if we want to say the different things that we can do, but let's talk about some of the gotchas and some of the things that you really want to be able to have as a basic core functionality for maintaining and managing your own products.
Yeah, great question. So I think there are sort of two components of this. One is the self-service and automation that's necessary to scale with the marketplace, because you're going to have the same product coming from different sellers, and they're going to have different pieces of the truth. And some of them will sort of like have less valuable or less accurate information mixed in with more valuable pieces of the truth about that product. So that's sort of a wonderful and enjoyable part of working with different sellers is, they're going to have valuable info, but it's intermixed with good data. And this is a really big problem. But the first thing, to your point, Ron, is just being able to interact with the system and be able to push data into it. And, there are different ways of doing this. I would say there are sort of like three major flavors. One would be manually on an individual level, being able to create products, be able to push the products with a simple interface, as everybody has seen before, and we'll show screenshots here so you can see an example. But fundamentally being able to push basic information about the product, the name, the SKU, the inventory information, pictures, description, meta details, etc. And this can be quite intricate depending on your marketplace, and really necessary that it have enough fidelity around maybe like customer specific pricing levels or roles within the marketplace and pricing. Again, sort of this ability to accurately provide lead times based on where someone is and how proximate they are to fulfillment centers, for example. Being able to set up different information about the dimensional weights of the items so that can happen, that actual shipping estimation can happen properly. The list really goes on. There are a lot of different options. Maybe having a detailed quoting process because this item is really expensive to ship, and it's really not possible to ship it easily without going through a back and forth quote. Maybe it's going to be customized, etc. So being able to allow the seller to sort of select all of these options dynamically, put it into the right categories, provide all of this detail is absolutely critical. So we would typically see this happening in sort of three different flavors. One would be manually, the next would be a bulk upload, and then sort of the final layer typically is some flavor of API integration or EDI integration. So these are sort of levels of progression. And we want to really be able to offer all of these at all times. But at least as a minimum, the manual and then the bulk upload should be sort of like a turnkey default for your marketplace. Like your sellers should be able to have both of these at their fingertips and really easily be able to manage their inventory in bulk as well as on an individual level at will. The other piece of this is foundationally, you're going to want to be thinking about it at least right away, if not executing on it right away, with having an approval process and having a process for dealing with data that's different between your sellers. And Ron, feel free to dive into this one some if you'd like, but the core thought here is, there could be 27 different sellers of this same item. You have to have a way of adjudicating and sort of like reconciling the differences between them And some of them have more valuable information than what's been published so far. So we want to be able to intake that data, have it go through a reasonable process so that our buyers are getting reliable information about that product that isn't fluff and inaccurate. But we also need to reasonably be able to publish things to the site without having to go through it manually, individually looking at every piece of data that's coming in from sellers as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when a buyer comes in and looks for something, if there are competitive prices in there, they want to be able to see all three of them side by side, right? And so a significant amount of that comes into what we're talking about here in controlling their own products. So, if I want to cheat the system, since I work on SEO, everything Google does is basically to try to counteract what we SEOs do to exploit the system, right? Because we're trying to get our clients' stuff to rank better on the website. So we're doing every tip and trick we can, and then Google sees us exploiting those tips and tricks, and so they change it, right? And that's kind of the way this system is too. So if I come in a marketplace and I'm selling, I don't know, make up your mind, a mower, I'm going to have that in 27 different categories. So if people are browsing categories, my mower shows up because I want to sell it more. But buyers don't want to go in and click on clothing and see Ron's mower showing up in clothing. They would get mad, right? And then I'm going to get in trouble. So how do you control stuff like that? How do you control the sellers from gaming the system, right? And obviously we're going to talk about governance and things like that in other videos. But the way to do that is to potentially make decisions on how your marketplace is going to behave the best. How am I going to ensure that my sellers upload consistent data? So when people go to compare my mower that I offer against the one Chris is offering against the one that's offered by another vendor, that they have at least the same features and the same pictures and the same size pictures, if you will, so that I can truly compare them apples to apples, because that's really the experience they want. So a significant amount of that can be dealt with in templates, right? So I can have specific templates that are for different types of things. I don't know if you've ever listed anything on Craigslist, but the first thing when you go to Craigslist, it comes up and says, what is it? What are you trying to sell? And it has this radio. You can only pick one, and it might be furniture or clothing or whatever. And then based on what you pick in your marketplace, you can upload a pre-done template. So if they come in and I pick a mower, then they may not be able to adjust and assign the categories because it is, or if I click on appliance, then maybe it automatically goes in the appliances master category. And then based on a model number or based on what it is, I can then pick the subcategory that it shows in, or things like that. Or maybe that template requires certain amount of required fields, right? I know if I'm looking for appliances, I don't necessarily have to have, straight Whirlpool through, because I want a Bosch washer or a Bosch dishwasher, right? Because they're so silent, they're so amazing. And I'm going to pair that probably with a KitchenAid oven. But the one thing that they both have to be stainless or black stainless or white or whatever it is, right? So we may want to require certain attributes like finish, so that they put in the white, the black chrome, or stainless steel. They put that in there so that when somebody comes in to search for appliances, they can say, I just want to see all stainless dishwashers available. And all the brands come up, and I can see them all side by side. There's pictures of them and all, and it's easy to compare them, right? So I think coming up with the standards and requirements up front is really helpful in controlling that experience, because it will limit them and help them to ensure that they upload the right size files, the right size images, get them assigned in the right categories, have the right basic, requirement notes for dimensional weights. If people want to be able to calculate shipping and ship to you and you want to increase your sales, you have to fill out the dimensional weight, things like that, or you just require a dimensional weight. And then there's a note that says, hey, if you put the wrong dimensional weight in, whatever shipping estimate is given, you have to honor that because that's what they're paying. Things like that you can force that. Is there anything else you want to add about controlling the products?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think we could go on into detail. I think the main idea for folks is that, just like you did, Ron, you want to get into the weeds, especially within your niches that you own, and really think about the nuances. And you want to work closely with the different vendors that you're considering for future projects or your existing team, and just really get into where are you going. And this is sort of the classic question we always talk about, is where are you going over the next 3 to 5 years? What does the competitive landscape look like? This is a huge lever for you to pull on if you want to really further optimize. It's sort of a hidden secret of, improving SAT. So Ron, speaking of optimizing on the product side of things and making it easy for the sellers and the buyers to get what they're after.
Thanks for watching an episode of our Marketplace Webinar Chapter Series. Join Chris and Ron in our next video where they will cover product optimization. See you there.